Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to share a game with you guys from the Grand Chess Tour 2024 Sinquefield Cup. Now, the Sinquefield Cup is a it's a high-level tournament, and there are 10 players participating, and you can see that these are the players: Fabiano Caruana, Landa Muniaci, and many more, as well as the world chess champion, the current world chess champion, Liren. All of these 10 players are very strong, and we can see that this is the time control 120 minutes plus 30 seconds each move increment per move. So it's like the one game can play like for a very long time, like hours and hours. And this is the prize distribution, and this is the location. They are playing at the St. Louis Chess Club in St. Louis, United States. But anyways, I'm just briefly introducing this tournament and some of the details to you guys. But today we're mainly focusing on a game, and it's this one. So white is Alireza Firouzja and black is the current world chess champion Liren. So right now they have already played 7 rounds, and this is the 7th round of this tournament. So we can see that actually Firouzja has scored a very nice score. He is 5 points out of 7, and he is in the lead of this tournament. And let's see how he does facing the current world chess champion. He started with e4, and e5 was played by Liren. Knight f3, knight c6, and bishop c4, the Italian game. Knight f6, attacking the e4 pawn, d3. This is all standard in theory. Bishop c5, c3. So the Italian game is actually very similar to the Rule Opus. And if you don't know, that actually the Rule Opus starts here with bishop b5. Bishop b5, and after knight f6, short castle. White also has c3, d4 ideas later on in the game. In the Italian game, this idea is also very common. So after bishop c4, which is played in the game, knight f6, d3, bishop c5, and c3, white is actually now threatening to push d4 anytime in the future. d6 was played, and now a4. So actually a4's idea is to go b4, and after the bishop retreats, threatening to push a5 to trap this bishop. So of course Liren saw this idea and responded with a5. You might ask, well, why not push this bishop to b6 immediately with b4? It's also possible after bishop b6 and then push a4. And after a5, now you can just go simply b5 and have a great space on the queen side. But actually in the game, Alireza didn't choose this line and played a4 instead. And after a5, bishop g5. So actually we can see that Alireza isn't choosing the main line. The main line would be b4 and then push a4. But instead he chose to play a4 first, and then giving up the b4 idea, now going bishop g5. So actually in this position now, black has a small edge. So most of the times, especially in classical games, when you're playing against a very strong player, you don't want to play an opening where you might lose some advantage, especially when you're white. And here Alireza actually chose a line that is not so common and actually not that good for white. But maybe he is just trying to get out of Ding's preparation and trying to make him get confused. So maybe it's still one of his strategies. But let's see how the game went on. h6 was played, kicking this bishop, and now bishop h4. Queen e7 was played, short castle, and g5. So we can see that now Ding has given up short castle, the opportunity to short castle, because if you're short castle later on in the game, you can see that your king side is a little bit weak. So short castle might not be, of course, on the next move, you might not go short castle because it might be a little bit dangerous. But after g5, we know that now Ding is actually trying to create counterplay on the king side. Whether or not he will choose to short castle in the future, he is going to attack on the king side. So after bishop g3, bishop g4 is played, pinning this knight, knight bd2, and bishop a7. So bishop a7 is actually a pretty useful move because later on in the game, white will have d4 or even b4 ideas to kick this bishop. So why not retreat this bishop back first and avoid these kinds of ideas for white? And bishop b5 was played. Now, Ding played short castle. So actually, I think it's a bit risky because he might because you can see that his pawns have pushed a bit further into the games into the board. But so we can see that if black goes short castle, then it's actually a bit hard for him to maneuver his pieces to the king side to attack. So maybe instead he just needs to put his king in the center of the board and then find a way to get the rooks over to the g file and the h file and launching an attack on white's king immediately, because going short castle might decrease his attacking time, make his attacking harder. But anyways, in the game, he went short castle, which wasn't a mistake, but just not the best move. Rook e1 was played. Now we can see that white's idea is to go knight f1 and now knight e3, very similar to the rule opus. Knight h5 was played, kicking this g3 bishop, and now king h1, a mistake made by Alireza, but it's the engine says it's a mistake, but technically speaking, there's not white is not losing any material or anything. It's just white's losing some positional advantage. Here the best move is to go h3 to actually kick this bishop away, because this pin is actually very annoying. Now let's say black takes. Now queen takes f3, knight g3, and now queen takes g3. Probably black will go f5. Now let's say d4. The position is very unclear, and probably that's the reason why Alireza doesn't want to reach this position, that position where exchange too many pieces, and instead he went king h1. Knight g7 was played. Now a better option would be to go f5, but knight g7 is also okay. Now h3 was played, bishop h5. Now bishop c4. So white is now stopping this f5 idea. King h8 was played, so now black is just preparing for f5, and bishop d5 was played. Actually, bishop d5 is not the best move, because actually the better option would be to go queen b3 first of all, moving away from this pin, second of all, attacking this b7 pawn, and also putting pressure on this diagonal. But anyways, in the game, bishop d5 was played, and now knight d8. So we can see that black is basically threatening to go c6 on the next move to kick this bishop away. So in the game, d4 was played. Now Alireza is creating counterplay in the center of the board. We can see that he is actually, the rook is looking at the queen, and once the pawn takes, there's even e5 ideas for white, and also queen b3 ideas in the future. So in the game, f6 was played. So Ding is actually getting a bit, he is playing not that aggressive, but you can see that he has a very solid pawn structure on the king side. He is also supporting this e5 pawn with his d6 and f6 pawn, and he is also putting all his pieces a little bit cramped inside his pawn chain. So he is not really playing that actively. Knight f1 was played, so Alireza is just maneuvering his pieces and trying to get them to a better spot. c6 was played, kicking this bishop away, and now bishop a2. Knight e6, knight e3, rook a d8. So it's very clear that black does have some d5 idea, and black is also putting pressure on this d4 pawn. So knight g4 was played. Now king to h7. Bishop b1 was played, so looking at the king on this diagonal. Actually, I think both sides at this point, they don't really have a very clear plan or anything, because both sides hasn't made a blunder yet, and the position is actually still pretty much equalized. Black might have a bit of a small positional advantage, but still, in human eyes, it's probably just an equalized position. Now bishop g6 was played, queen d2, and now knight f4. Finally, one of the sides had starts to make a mistake. Knight f4. So why is this a mistake? But actually, in the game, Alireza missed the chance to gain advantage. So the reason that knight f4 was a mistake is because white should have played bishop takes f4. You can see that this bishop on g3 is actually a very bad piece in this whole position. G3 bishop will be the worst piece actually. And this e6 knight is actually pretty active, putting pressure on the d4 pawn and also like looking at f4 squares and controlling many squares, also maybe even having c5 ideas. But now black is just now trying to exchange this very good knight for this very bad bishop. So that is why it's a mistake. It's a positional mistake. But bishop c2 was playing the game. Alireza missed this chance. And queen e6 again. So he should have just played knight ge6 because after bishop takes, there will be knight takes f4. Black will have this very solid knight on f4. But Ding missed this opportunity and he played queen to e6. But now Alireza missed another opportunity, which was to take on f4. He should have taken on f4, but he didn't, and he played rook a d1. So both sides missed a few opportunities, and now the position is close to equalized again. Rook a d1 was played. Now h5. Finally, Ding is creating counterplay on the king side with h5. Attacking this knight, and now the knight moves back. Knight gh2. Probably knight e3 was better, but because white will have knight f5 ideas, but knight gh2 is also fine. Queen f7, and now knight f1. Knight e6, knight e3, and now e takes d4. Ding finally opens up the center. If both sides just keeps on moving as like their pieces inside their pawn chains, then this will be very boring. So it's reasonable why Ding wants to open up the center and create more counterplay. But here e takes d4 is just not at the right time, played at the wrong time. E takes d4, and now just like playing the game after c takes d4, white now suddenly has a lot of counterplay, even like b4 on the queen side, and also d5 ideas. And white now has many open diagonals, and especially this bishop. This bishop is now open to this diagonal and putting a lot of pressure on this d6 pawn. You can see that before everything had happened, this bishop was just a very bad piece because it is being blocked by the d6 pawn and the e5 pawn. But now after takes, this bishop now has an open diagonal and also putting pressure on this d6 pawn. So after d5, now e takes d5, just keep on opening diagonals. C takes d5, and now bishop takes g6, queen takes g6. Now this position, actually white is now winning because this a5 pawn is lost. And after bishop b8, bishop takes b8, rook takes b8, queen takes d5. After the position opened up, Ding just sort of collapsed. He lost 2 pawns straight in a row, and we can actually see that he is low on time. Of course, he only has 4 minutes compared to Alireza's 33 minutes, but still he sort of blundered these 2 pawns away completely. And after knight f4, queen to b5, g4, it looks a bit scary for white on the king side, but there's just no counterplay for black. After h6, g4, knight h4, and now queen to g5. You just go knight f5. You have to be careful not to go takes because after takes, your knight is sort of trapped on h4 and you have to go, for example, like knight g4, and after takes, you are up 3 pawns but you're down a piece, and now the position is draw, like an equal position. So in the game, knight f5 was played, knight takes f5, queen takes f5, takes. Oh, actually not take, but Alireza played rook to e7 check first. Of course, taking on f5 is another good option, but Alireza probably wanted to like win in a more special way, and he played rook e7 first, and after king to h6, knight takes f5 check, king g6, and after knight h4, Ding actually resigned in this position. Of course, if he goes back to h6, then probably white will just push pawns, because white is up 2 pawns now, and black's king is just way too weak, and black's pieces are also very passive. So that is why Ding here resigned the game. Again, a very a game well played by Alireza Firouzja, and he is now in the lead. He has just won against the current world chess champion, and now he has 5 points out of 7. So, but there are still a couple of games further on in the game, and well, let's see what he does. So, hope you guys enjoyed this game, and yeah, see you in the next video. Please subscribe. Bye.